Well. Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. I am attorney Michael Eline, and as most of you know who follow me, I am licensed to practice law in both Texas and California. But what I do here on my channel is separate and apart pretty much from what we do at my law firm. I am a personal injury attorney, so I do catastrophic injury claims. And I used to do a lot of civil rights and criminal defense, but my heart has always been as an activist and holding the government accountable. And so I volunteer my time to come on here whenever I have some time, and I usually don't, with my wife and kids screaming at me like, why are you wasting time on YouTube? But I do it because I built a really nice community of patriotic people who love their country. And because I do work so much, it gives me an opportunity to have some kind of a friendship with someone, because when you work all the time, you really can't go out and do much. So I have my virtual friends here on YouTube, and we've got a lot of cool people who join the channel every once in a while. And today we're going to talk a little bit about government accountability operations with respect to bad cops. And last night we talked a little bit about throwdown drugs, how police are being caught all the time planting drugs on people because of the fact that we now have a lot of First Amendment auditors filming, as well as just the cops are stupid and they actually allow their body cams to pick it up as they're planting drugs on people. So today we're going to get into, hey, what's going on, Anthony? Hello from California and Texas, Anthony Serrano. Good seeing you, brother. And look, I'm not expecting to get a huge audience. Typically we'll get between 90 to 100,000 viewers, but that's because I do it on a weekday, not on a Sunday. So I'm not expecting to get too crazy, but I'm in the process of moving offices right now and I'm fried. Haven't had a chance to take a break. So I'm taking a break right now, and I'm going to share some cool stuff that I found with you guys over the last couple of days. And I think you'll be really appreciative of it. But let me just go ahead and kick off the show really quick like I normally do. To another edition of Ask Michael Eline. This is where I teach people the law in an unorthodox manner by using examples that we see in the news, case law briefs, but it's all about exposing the Leviathan and its instrumentalities and taking back your rights. Know the law and mean to keep it well. Come here to learn from an expert to know your right. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. That's right. We never know when the thought police are going to take down the channel. And that's why you always want to film the police, and you want to save my videos. You don't just want to like and subscribe, but you want to actually upload them, because, people like me are a rare bird. You're not going to find a whole lot of people who are really wanting to hold the government accountable. Most lawyers you'll probably see want to be part of the system. They want to engage in that academic industrial complex where critical thinking is looked down upon. And we see that now, even with the California State Bar trying to abolish the bar exam because it's, quote, racist. But we think people like me know that the real reason is because it's easier to control people who aren't educated. Because when the police come up and ask you stupid questions and you don't know how to answer, it's easier for them to take you to jail. They'll try to ask you questions like this.
Where are your papers, Mav? Where are they? Oh, you don't have any papers?
So you guys kind of see, oh, look at that. Look at little Chili DeCastro from yesterday. By the way, guys, go check out Chili DeCastro's show from yesterday, Delete Laws. He has some pretty good stuff on there. I really like his critiques and the way that he breaks down things, super easy for people to understand. So, where are your papers? Remember, your papers, you must have them. Yeah. So this is what they always want. They always want your papers. And some states are actually stop and ID states where they can ask you for your ID. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I think that's totally unconstitutional. It reminds me of what the Nazis did. And then at the end, we're going to talk with my buddy Q. He did a video about the Wounded Knee and how our woke military is now trying to retroactively go back and take medals of honor from people who were awarded medals of honor. After our government tried to disarm the natives at the Battle of Wounded Knee, and then soldiers went in and followed orders and did what they were supposed to do. Well, now our new woke Department of Defense or whatever you want to call them, Department of Wokeness, and make sure China kicks the shit out of us in the next war. Those guys has decided they want to retroactively go back. It's not bad enough that they've destroyed the military, but now they want to go back and destroy it even more by stealing medals of honor from people who won medals of honor based upon the hermeneutics of their day. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. But first, we're going to get into my first video. We're going to talk about throwdown weapons. And so this is really amazing, guys. A lot of people don't get it. A lot of people just think, oh, police are so honest. There's no quotas anymore. They're there to protect and serve. But as a lawyer, I can tell you, police have no duty to protect individuals unless they've assumed a duty or there's some exception. But as a general rule, police have no duty to protect individuals. Their job is to protect the government, the policy, thus police. Police, policia means police, means policy enforcer. That's all they are. They enforce the policy, and their politicians throw them under the bus the first chance they get when the police do enforce the policy. But the police that get promoted, they're the ones who make the most drug busts, the ones who find the most concealed weapons, the ones who generate the most, wait for it, revenue. Those are the guys who get promoted. And so we're going to get into this really quick, guys. And you're going to see how cops can get promoted and why I am a follower of natural law. And I believe in John Locke. And I believe that anyone in government, no matter what you do, you should be only joining government because you know the law and mean to keep it well, because you're a moral person and that you just want to serve. Now, the problem is we don't have that anymore. And we're going to watch right now and take a look.
Hello, my name is Taya Graham, and welcome to the Police Accountability Report. This is a breaking news update for a case we've been following as we have obtained exclusive footage of a cop lying about an arrest and potentially ruining someone's life in the process.
Now, by the way, I encourage all of you guys to follow Taya. I don't know what her politics are, and I think most of the people on my channel are probably at least half the people on my channel support the traditional old school Democrats that used to love their country. They're like more of the old school Democrats. And then the other half are probably like the old school, like Reagan Republicans. I don't really have woke people on my channel, and I don't really have radicalized, what you would call like the hardcore Trump supporters, maybe a couple, but pretty much I kind of have I try to keep it kind of neutral. Like you just love America, natural law, Bill of Rights. That's kind of where we go. So I'm not really sure about her politics, but I encourage you to not hate people just because they disagree with you on a few things. Always remember that we'll never agree with everyone on everything. And that's what makes America such a wonderful place. The opportunity to think differently without being attacked by the woke mafia on a college campus, for example. So let's go ahead and watch what she has to say.
But before we get started, I have to ask you to please like, comment, and share our videos.
Yeah, do that.
We need your help to get the message out. And if you have evidence of police misconduct or brutality, please share it with us. You can email us privately at
Well, share it with me first, or Chili DeCastro, because I think we've got more pull than she does. But nonetheless, this is a great video.
are at therealnews.com. And you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at the Police Accountability Report, or follow us on Twitter at Eyes on Police. And of course, you can message me directly at Taya's Baltimore on Facebook and Twitter. And you know I read your comments and appreciate them. So please comment. Now, back to the exclusive body cam footage. The case involves Baltimore police officer Michael O'Sullivan. He testified under oath during a trial that Baltimore resident Yusef Smith possessed a gun. The claim led to Smith's incarceration for several months, where he was facing multiple charges of gun possession and perhaps decades in prison. But there was one flaw in the case: the body camera footage. Prosecutors from the office of Baltimore State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby reviewed the footage and discovered that O'Sullivan had lied. In other words, as we've seen in a myriad of other cases, police were caught on their own cameras committing crimes, despite the fact they knew the cameras were on, which is why the Police Accountability Report filed.
Right. And that's a big problem, too, because we know that police agencies are notorious for recording over stuff, deleting footage. And so what I've learned from my whistleblower friends who work for various law enforcement agencies, federal and state, that one of the common things that you'll find is that typically if they like you, they're going to delete the footage. But if they don't like you at the department, they won't delete it. So if you're one of their favorites, part of their nepotism crew, like, Ironton, Ohio, for example, if you're part of their family, shit gets deleted. But if they don't like you, it won't get deleted. So don't be shocked when you see that they haven't deleted some footage. They probably just don't like this guy. That's what I'm learning from my whistleblowers. By the way, oh my God, guys, I wasn't expecting this many people today, to be honest. Thank you so much for showing up again, Anthony Serrano. And you're right, never, ever talk to police, because all you're doing is participating in an investigation against yourself. I mean, how is that going to be helpful? All you're doing is helping this guy get his bonus, right? So he can put more people in prison and maybe get a promotion, for example. So we don't want to do that. Stomper, thanks for the par comment. Sigavit, thank you for joining us again. And hi, Mama Lion. Yeah, definitely, Mama Lion. I can't believe you guys are all showing up in my streams. I thought when Chili came back, I'd never see you guys again. And I was okay with that. I was actually going to stop doing these things. But then I got all these emails saying, no, don't go. We still want you, Mike. So here I am on a Sunday. I've been moving. My back's all screwed up, man. You guys have no idea. Smashed one of my fingers. Kind of reminds me of when I worked construction back in the day. So Mama Lion, Sonia Massey's killer didn't have his on. That's right. Turn the lights on everybody's page. Yeah, that's right. Look at that. Ruby, the lead deputy that framed me, was on the Brady list. Hey, look, I don't doubt that. And you'll see that too. Like, for example, in my trade as a personal injury lawyer, when we do work comp claims, you'll have a list of doctors who have been accused or convicted of or are being accused of medical fraud, where they lie and they take tax dollars, to inflate their bills. And just anytime the government gets involved and starts redistributing your money, corruption abounds. I mean, look at the Gavin Newsom homeless person thing. Give me a freaking break. He lost like $28 billion they can't account for. So we know what happens, right? They'll start a nonprofit. He'll start paying off all of his buddies with these nonprofits with tax dollars. And then his buddies will start loaning money to all of his political campaigns and all the Democrat causes with your tax dollars. And so I have a problem with that. Being someone who's a libertarian, I don't want my tax dollars being used to support some Marxist communist administration like Newsom's. So I'm sure a lot of you guys feel the same way about this wokeness thing. What a joke, destroying the whole concept of earning things and meritorious promotion, making sure that the person that you hired actually has enough experience and enough talent based on prior success. It's called merit. And that's being destroyed by the school system and got by guys like Gavin Newsom. Just keep us as stupid as effing possible. That's the goal of the far radicalized people in California, San Francisco, and BlackRock, forcing all this transformer crap on kindergarten age kids at Target and all that. Parents are outraged. They're leaving the state. And so this is a culmination, and this is a continuance of what's going on with the government. Now let's watch this.
A formal Public Information Act request to view the footage which led to his conviction. And this footage reveals what led prosecutors to charge O'Sullivan with committing a crime. So let's watch. And while we watch, Stephen, can you explain what we're seeing?
Okay, so Michael O'Sullivan and several other officers were called to the scene because some young men were playing dice. And also during that period of time, someone also says someone might have a gun, although we're not really sure about that. So as you're watching the body cam footage now, you can see the officers arrive on the scene. And what we'll do is we'll focus in on something very interesting. Michael O'Sullivan, the police officer, goes down into the stairwell to look around to see where the game was being played. His fellow officer walks past his gun. But as this is all unfolding, and we'll show you this right now, you can see the person they eventually charged running about 100 yards away. Okay, so let's watch that, focus in that slowly. So now you can see that while he is running, Michael O'Sullivan is down in this alley.
Right.
And he is looking around.
Right, in this little stairwell that he really can't see out of.
Can't see anything.
Yeah.
And then we see the body cam footage again. Let's watch. He walks past the gun. And then at the same time, they have detained Yusef Smith, who is the person who they eventually charged. I would say a couple hundred yards away from where the gun was found. But Michael O'Sullivan says...
So I don't know about you guys, but if I'm, a cop at a crime scene and I see a weapon, the first thing I'm going to be doing is trying to secure that weapon, not leave it out there while I'm walking around with a camera. So that definitely is something that caught my attention. Let's keep going.
And testifies that he saw Yusef Smith drop the gun, right? He saw him toss the gun. So now when you're seeing this footage, you can see it's absolutely impossible that he
Right.
saw him drop the gun.
Yeah.
Now you say, what's the big deal? The gun was there. But the point is that that is illegal. You
Yes.
can't, so O'Sullivan didn't just say, saw him drop the gun. O'Sullivan went into a courtroom, testified against Yusef Smith. And of course, Yusef Smith was then convicted of possession of a handgun, which is a huge crime in this. And there's mandatory minimums with many times with handgun convictions. So he actually completely fraudulently made up this story. And so it's very interesting as you see the footage, and we're going to keep showing it kind of different aspects of it. But this arrest unfolded over a long period of time. But one thing was very clear from all the footage. You could not see, Michael O'Sullivan could not see what he said he saw. So he straight up lied under oath in a trial over a young man's life.
Accountability report. This is
Right. So really quick. So reasonable inferences, reasonable inferences can be drawn in law to prove or disprove a fact. You don't always need direct evidence. In this case, the officer could argue that, you know, the fact that the guy was running created an inference that he committed a crime, but that probably wouldn't fly. I think there's a reasonable inference that the cop was trying to make a bust because there's no way he could have seen the guy, and he did see the weapon and he did nothing. A reasonable inference could be drawn that that weapon was dropped by a fellow officer in an effort to create a bust. And we know that that kind of stuff happens all the time. And why do we know that? Because of guys like Chili DeCastro and guys like BZ Watchdog who actually hold the government accountable on a daily basis. People who are willing to risk their lives and go to prison, go to jail for what they believe in. That's why I volunteer my time here, guys, because I really, really like brave people and I want to support them in any way that I can, whether it be legally or even physically if necessary. Let's go ahead and keep watching this thing.
And convicted of possession of a handgun, which is a huge crime in this. And there's mandatory minimums with many times with handgun convictions. So he actually completely fraudulently made up this story. And so it's very interesting as you see the footage, and we're going to keep showing it kind of different aspects of it. But this arrest unfolded over a long period of time. But one thing was very clear from all the footage. You could not see, Michael O'Sullivan could not see what he said he saw. So
That's
he
right.
straight up lied under oath in a trial over a young man's life, you know, who we learned lost his job, lost his living where he was living, had to move back in, I think, with his family, destroyed the young man's life. So
Destroyed his life.
this is, I think, extremely exemplar of the problem we have. Yes, we have crime.
And so this is one of those issues, you know, a lot of people don't understand, you know, why do black people hate police so much? Well, look at what the police do to them. You give me a break. Check this out.
Places like Baltimore. In fact, this took place right near our house. But the point is that it's not solving anything if police have no integrity. I mean, the lying and the repercussions of the lying are monumental and profound.
O'Sullivan was indeed convicted of misconduct and giving false testimony, crimes so grievous he himself was sentenced to 15 months in prison.
That's nothing.
Stephen, how rare is it for an officer to receive jail time?
Now, she's going to tell you right now, but I got to tell you something right now, guys. To me, a public servant should be thrown away for life when they commit the most minor of infractions. These people are using your tax dollars. These people are passing laws to restrict your freedom, and the law enforcement personnel that they hire are performing those tasks. So not only should the law enforcement officers be locked up, but those politicians who pass those bullshit laws, those are the ones who should be locked up. Like what they did with Garner over in New York, the I Can't Breathe case. That's because the government passed some stupid law that they wanted to have a cigarette tax, right? So what happened? Well, all the homeless people just went across to New Jersey and brought cigarettes back and sold what they call Lucy's for like $3 a cigarette in front of those liquor stores that were pissed off about the cigarette tax to begin with. And they basically threatened the governor and the mayor, hey, we're pulling out of New York, like a lot of people are already doing, unless you start enforcing these stupid laws that you passed. So what do? They go and strangle the guy to death. I can't breathe. Good job, coppers. And then what happened is the administrative state, the politicians, the scumbags that hired these cops, went ahead and threw the cops under the bus. So why on earth would a cop even want to abide by the law when they know that the politicians don't, and they know the first opportunity that politician gets, they're going to throw that cop under the bus. You see the system that wokeness has created in this country. It's even worse now than it was before. Let's keep watching.
Well, it's very rare because we just covered the trial of Baltimore police officer Michael Gentile, who's convicted of possession of a handgun while committing a felony, which comes with a mandatory 5-year minimum sentence. But the judge gave him an appeal bond, meaning that he could go home and wait and serve out his sentence at home, not in prison, while he was waiting for his appeals to run through the court system.
Now, remember, that's what Chili DeCastro tried to do. He tried to get an appeal bond so he could get out, when when the judge went ahead and locked him up, but the appellate court wouldn't grant his appeal bond, but that's what that would be for. I just wanted to kind of, the non-lawyers, the people who aren't quite as quick, I'm trying to help you understand. Here we go.
The conviction. So in that case, almost every other person would have been put in jail for 5 years.
Also, don't prosecutors sometimes actually hold back exculpatory evidence to help officers? I mean,
Yep.
There were just 3 men who had spent 36 years in prison
Right.
for falsely imprisoned, innocent, completely innocent of a crime, because a prosecutor and police officer worked together to
Yep.
hide evidence.
Happens all the time.
sometimes
Well-
things like this body camera footage actually not get used in court.
Why I think this case is so important is it illustrates something that's very different now in Baltimore City. I think 10 years ago, this kid would have served out 7 or 8 years in prison and nothing ever would have happened to exonerate him. However, Baltimore State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby is one group of
Sorry, race gas.
a couple or maybe half a dozen progressive prosecutors in cities like St. Louis, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, who are saying no.
Right.
We can no longer abet police misconduct and the false imprisonment of African Americans and
Hey,
people
Katie.
in cities like Baltimore. And so what's unusual about this is that the prosecutors actually went through the body camera footage, found it, and then prosecuted him. And
That's highly unusual.
and since Marilyn Mosby has been elected to office, I think she's prosecuted like 50 some odd police
Yeah,
officers,
over
which is
55.
unprecedented. Never happened in Baltimore.
And that's pretty badass. I mean, I got to hand it to Marilyn Mosby. I mean, that's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy that these people, like guys like me, grew up on 1 Adam 12. I was taught the police could do no wrong until that fateful day when I met Officer Millicent of the West Covina Police while I was loading my truck in front of the Bally's Total Fitness getting ready for a mall show. And lo and behold, I'm stopped on a red curb, which the vehicle code says you can do for the purposes of loading and unloading. And of course, Officer Millicent, he looked like he was all roided out with his pot belly, shows up and starts writing me a ticket. And I'm like, hey, show me your ID, because no police officer in his right mind would sit here in a private parking lot, stand here and write a guy a ticket who's clearly engaged in the performance of his duties. I'm going to a mall show. Are you even a police officer? Yeah, I'm an officer. Show me your ID, because I don't believe that you're actually a trained officer. And of course, I get in my truck and I say, okay, I'm going to go park now since it's loaded. And, I'll just come right back over here. He doesn't say anything. And I said, don't you have anything better to do than bust criminals? And the car's not even turned on. The guy reaches across, grabs me by my head and my neck and tries to pull me out of the passenger side of my Jeep Cherokee, and in front of everyone, all these witnesses. So it doesn't just happen to black people. It happens to the corporate wellness director of Bally's Total Fitness. And that, my friends, was the launch pad that launched me into becoming a lawyer. I was charged with resisting, obstructing, delaying an officer under 148. I won that case and I sued him and got 30 grand. And that's what started it all. So I am not only what do they say, that I'm not only the owner of Hair Club for Men, I'm also a client. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's keep watching what they have to say.
Before, never happened ever.
Yeah.
So how many people are in for these kind of gun crimes? I mean, the Gun Trace Task Force, which is a group of 8 corrupt officers, were notorious for planting guns on people.
Exactly.
I think this case points to the sort of the concept of the proximity crime that we've seen as a result of the drug war. The psychology of police officers, that being proximate to an object, like a bag of something or a little marijuana, makes you a criminal? Or is it a way to apply blanket criminality to community? Here's a gun, we're going to put it on somebody. What's the big
Right.
deal?
Right.
It doesn't matter if we didn't see him. And it shows how the process of evidence and justice has been warped by racist and unconstitutional policing
Absolutely.
in cities like Baltimore.
Guilty by
He didn't care.
association.
He wasn't like, I don't have to see someone have this gun.
But I propose this. It's not just about racism, guys. It's about people who challenge the system. Okay. People like me, white guys who challenge the system. You just see it more with the black dudes who challenge the system because they don't take crap from anybody. You see it. They'll talk back to the cops. They won't take crap from anyone. And so because they challenge them, of course, the cops don't like them. You see the same thing happening with Chili DeCastro. They say hello and he says, hello is for suckers. Of course, that's going to piss off someone who's been trained ever since they were in the academy that they have to take charge. And that if people don't like you, well, they're the enemy, right? That's how they're trained. If people don't like you, they're the enemy, even though you're the public servant. Let's keep watching.
We have a young African-American man. We have a gun a couple 100 yards away.
We're just going to put them together.
Put them together. Why not?
We don't care at all whether or not
You know,
that young man actually owned that gun.
And of course, just like the gun trace task force, they booked a stat and said, look, we found a gun.
Right.
I'm sure the police department sent out a press release saying a gun was recovered from a felon or something, or
Right.
some, you know, so it just shows how warped. People don't understand Baltimore City is not a constitutional city. It is a city that does not operate under the auspices of the Constitution. It operates fully under the control and power of a totally corrupt police department that completely and unequivocally ignores the law.
And, you know, I've seen enough of this one. You guys can, I'll go watch her video later, but you get the idea. This is the case where we didn't physically see the police plant a gun, but we saw the police lie about who had the gun or, you know, where the gun, you know, who dropped the gun. And I'm going to be honest with you, those guys, those kids, there's no way they would have dropped that gun in the middle of a grass pathway. That's crazy. No criminal in their right mind, even a reasonably trained criminal, would just throw a gun in the middle of a patch of grass, especially an area where another cop had just walked through and just walked right past it. Right. I mean, clearly that was some kind of a plant. Even if it wasn't a plant, they lied about it, creating a reasonable inference that they were dishonest. And this is the kind of stuff that happens all the time, guys. So, hey, Dawood, how are you, buddy? So, Dawood, I haven't talked to Alan, but if you've spoken to him, please let us know. I know that he was getting, I know that Alan was prepping for another Ninth Circuit case. I know that recently he did a full, 11-judge en banc panel, which is really cool. Okay, so this next one, this is another video. Honestly, I wasn't expecting all of you guys today, so I'll do my best here. This is another video that has to do with some corruption, and I think this is like CHP or something. Yeah, UP cops plant gun on teacher's bike and then arrest him for arms smuggling. So let's take a look. So this is a teacher, and they're coming after a teacher. So this is just wild. So you can see this cop has got his flashlight. Looks like he's looking around, snooping around. Guess that's his bike. I got no sound on this one, guys, which is kind of funky. I'm not really sure what's going on. It's not on mute. Just take a look and tell me what you see. It's kind of funky because it looks like it should have some volume, right? It's like, what's the matter, you? Where is my volume? Anyways, that was an example of a cop planting a gun. That was a crappy one. I was hoping we'd get some cool sound out of it. Now, look, this isn't something that's just exclusive to America, right? I mean, this kind of stuff happens all over the place. I've got one of Israeli police, which is going to blow your mind. So here's another example of, you know, you have the administrative state, in this case, Israel, and we know that the Arabs and the Jews don't get along too well over there. And so, you know, it makes sense that you'd maybe plant drugs or weapons to try to, you know, lock some of these crazy jihadis up in their mind, right? Let's take a look. This is wild, man. So I see some comments in the sidebar. So Kinetic Custom says this is on Chili's channel. I didn't know if he had this or not, but you know, I got a little bit different of a perspective than Chili on some stuff. So for me, I can see that law enforcement, they're pushed to make busts. They're pushed to make arrests. They're pushed to raise revenue. And so as a result of that, you're promoted based upon doing those things. And if you live in a society of honest and just people, it's really hard to get those busts and those arrests. You following me so far? And that's why I'm a proponent of natural law and knowing the law and meaning to keep it well. But I feel that the administrative state actually pushes the youth into rebelling and into disobedience. So they'll have the ability to keep their prisons full. And I know that sounds a little crazy, but if you look at some of my other videos about the prison industrial complex and private prisons and how judges have been caught time and time again being paid off by foster parents, by child protective service workers, and human smugglers, basically, AKA the private prison system, to keep those prisons full and to keep the money flowing. And so you don't need an administrative state if you have a society of honest, trustworthy people. There won't be any crime. And that's why I'm a proponent of teaching civics, teaching love of country and patriotism. Now, I know a lot of you people are against mandatory military service. And as a libertarian, I support that idea of being against it. But I sure do think it's an amazing idea to have all the young men get that military training. Military training made me become much more responsible, reliable, and honorable as a man. And young men in particular, with our testosterone, there's two places we can go, either jail or success. And without a strong male mentor, it's very, very difficult to have success. And so for all of you people who come from single, mother type homes, the military is the next best place to get that fatherly advice and training. So the Israeli one, that one's kind of boring. I'm kind of over it already. Let's see what else we can find on here. Got this guy. We got this bad chick in here. We're going to watch this one. You guys ready? Here we go.
Nations are demanding action tonight after releasing video in a recent deadly officer-involved shooting. Surveillance video from the August 31st shooting of Terry Tillman was shared today. Activists claim police planted a gun on Tillman. They are citing this video that shows an officer handling a firearm while wearing rubber gloves.
It's a small piece of a bigger picture.
Yeah.
We get that. We're not naive. We understand this is a smaller piece of a bigger picture. But we contend that if the small piece is questionable, then it leads to the whole piece being questioned.
Yeah.
St. Louis County Police are responding tonight, saying actions taken by law enforcement on scene included securing Tillman's weapon, and that this video has been known and documented in the ongoing investigation. A video posted on Tillman's Facebook page the morning of the August 31st shooting shows him with a gun inside a car. Police say he pointed that firearm, causing an officer to shoot him. Tillman was a convicted felon, making his possession of a gun illegal. He also had the gun on him in the Galleria Mall, which is against mall policy.
Oh God, give me a break. All right. So listen, when you have a situation, when you have a situation with a guy who already has priors or they're not supposed to have a gun, it makes it easier for cops to get that bust. That's why I always tell you guys, never take the plea deal, because what that does is it creates a prior and it creates a potential future sentence enhancement. So don't do it. Don't take the plea deal, guys. Fight it. Now, whether or not that guy pointed a gun at a cop or not, we'll never really know. But what we do know is that there was suspicious activity, like the cop was having a gun in his gloves, taking it somewhere to plant it, because when he came back, the gun was missing. And so we see stuff like that happening all the time. And we know that society has been conditioned to think that most black males are criminals. And just like they've been conditioned to think that people who question authority are bad people, kind of like what happened to Chili de Castro. And so I just want you to to step outside your shoes for a minute and look down and pretend like you're God for a minute and look at the big picture about how these things are unraveling right before our very eyes. Now, so that was pretty much all I had to say about the throwdown weapons. Now I do have this cool video from this dude named Q, and I've been following this guy for a while. So look, I want to warn you guys, Q is, I guess he would be like considered to be a conservative maybe. But I see that he has some libertarian leanings, and he's talking about how all these woke politicians are trying to go back and, destroy all of our monuments. They're trying to pull statues of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, because at one time they owned slaves. And so therefore that makes them evil, and it makes the Constitution evil. And because of that, we need to have a full-blown communist system, just like the one that the Russians recently escaped, because that's a good thing, right? Government can force everyone to be equal, even if they're a complete moron, and make them equal to you, even though they didn't earn it, because that's called equity. And so we also have to go back and punish the ancestors and punish the descendants of anyone who owned slaves or anyone who disagreed with modern Marxist leftists, because they're bad, right? So if you support the concept of a two-parent nuclear family, that your son is a boy and that your daughter is a girl and that your wife is a female, that makes you a bigot, a racist, and a homophobe under this modern woke system. And so now we're going to watch Q take it to the next level. This is going to blow your mind, guys. This is only a couple of minutes, and then we'll call it a day.
Sometimes you guys feel that I can go a little bit hard on our government, but at the end of the day, the government is supposed to work for the people. And when I don't feel that the government that I am funding and paying for with my tax dollars is actually working on my behalf,
Amen.
yes, it 100% frustrates me. Just like when my employees, I don't feel like they are giving me an honest day's work for the amount of money that I am paying them. Yes, it upsets me, and I will then fire them and find an employee that will actually give me an honest day's work. If you do not give me an honest day's work, I feel as though you are stealing from me. That is it.
Oh yeah, but when you hire these guys out of these woke universities, they don't want to work. In fact, they'll start calling you they got these names. They call you an exploiter. They'll call you an exploiter. They'll say that you're exploiting me. We should be equal partners. I should be making as much as you. This is what they're learning in these woke college campuses, guys. It's unbelievable, the stuff these woke college kids are talking about.
Exact same way I view our government. And this guy I'm about to tell you about right now is the worst of them all. You guys might know Lloyd Austin, Secretary Lloyd Austin.
Joke.
This guy has done everything he can to turn our military into this woke nonsense mess.
The affirmative action defense secretary on steroids
that we have now. He has single-handedly been over the worst exodus from the military that we've ever seen. We have the smallest military we've had in nearly 100 years.
Yeah.
And the ones that we do have, they're not battle ready because
they don't even know what gender they are, guys. Give me a break.
They're so incredibly woke. And it's frustrating to me that now, with all of the issues that we have globally, with all of the conflicts that this administration has gotten us involved in, whether directly or by proxy, do you know what they want to do now? Do you know what they see as being the most important act that they can conduct now? They want to go after soldiers from 100 and nearly 134 years ago.
Ridiculous.
From 1890. They want to go after these soldiers, and they want to take away possibly their medals of honor.
Okay, so guys, I want to let's get real, all right? Let's get real. So the Marxists believe that the way we think today should be a microcosm of how things should have been in the past. And so if you don't support, sexualizing kindergartners in public schools or whatnot, like, for example, if you pledged allegiance to the flag with your class, like an old school teacher back in the day, they want to go back and cancel that teacher because they mentioned the word God, for example. So you just see this race to the bottom, this full reverse to try and make everyone from the past be judged by the standards that you've created today. And you see that happening in the military. You see that happening all over the place. And Q just pointed it out. And Q, man, I recommend you guys follow Q, even if you're not a conservative, because he's got a lot of really good things, interesting things to say. Let's check him out.
The soldiers from the battle, Wounded Knee. Now, if you guys are familiar with this, I'm vaguely familiar with it. It was a terrible, terrible tragedy. It truly was a terrible tragedy. The Lakota Indians were performing a ritual. I believe it was a ritual to ghost. I don't understand. I'm not going to try to pretend to understand exactly.
Guys, we're going to go ahead and go back. And I was just being an idiot.
Their medals of honor.
I want to take the medals of honor
soldiers from the
guys.
battle, Wounded Knee. Now, if you guys are familiar with this, I'm vaguely familiar with it. It was a terrible, terrible tragedy. It truly was a terrible tragedy.
I believe this is when the U.S. government ordered the U.S. military to take away the Second Amendment rights of the natives. And oh my goodness, the Second Amendment rights of the natives were taken away. Maybe we should go back and cancel the government for trying to interfere with the rights of those natives to defend themselves. What do you guys think?
The Lakota Indians were performing a ritual. I believe it was a ritual to ghost. I don't understand. I'm not going to try to pretend to understand exactly what the ritual was for, but the bottom line is that ritual was outlawed by our government. Okay. Outlawed by the government. They did it anyway. The government said, go in and arrest them. So these soldiers, most of them probably family men who probably did not want to be there in the first place. These soldiers were sent to go and apprehend these Lakota Indians from their tribe. Okay. In doing that, while they were apprehending them, a gun went off. And so the shooting started. Over 250 Lakota Indians were killed. 25 American soldiers were killed. So now they want to bring into question the 7th Cavalry's medals of honor for 20 of the men who died that day. They want to look at possibly rescinding their medals of honor. These men cannot, one, defend themselves. Many of them lost their lives. They were not supposed to be there in the first place. They were there at the behest of their own government.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just frustrating to me to see this is the type of nonsense that we are attempting to deal with in our military when we are most vulnerable as we have ever been. And they want to go back and take away the medals of honor from people 130 some odd years ago.
So guys, I mean, honestly, would you want to join a military where they're you got like the Barack Obama anti-white hater guys going back trying to figure out ways to penalize your ancestors or even you? Like, would you want to join the Marine Corps knowing that your Medal of Honor could be taken away in 200 years because you could have some woke activist president like an Obama come along, some Marxist communist academic come along and try and destroy you and try and preach the false religion of white supremacy that somehow that's the reason why we have all these problems, when the real reason we have these problems is because of woke academics and large corporations who have destroyed this country and have destroyed the moral fabric of this society, where we've had them purposefully pit races against each other to create division. The biggest problem for our government right now would be a united society. if public school kids weren't taught that white people were oppressors and that they were oppressed, and instead taught that the government is abusing them and mismanaging their money, those people would unite and fight against the government. But instead, we have the exact opposite. We have the government turning black against white, color against color, economic class against economic class, trying to point their finger at making this some kind of a racial thing when it's clearly not, because look who's in power now. We have woke academics canceling everything and anything that's white. So we know clearly there's no white supremacy going on. So just think about that. So if anybody doesn't have any comments, I'll just go ahead in the sidebar really quick and we'll close it out, guys. I hope you like the show today. I still have to go back and move a bunch of desks and stuff, so wish me luck. But really quick, the one thing that we definitely want to avoid at all times in life is this big problem of having to show our papers. And that's why people join me here, because we want to make sure that nobody asks us,
Where are your papers, Mav? Where are they? Oh, you don't have any papers? To the concentration camp with you.
there you go. So to the concentration camp with you if you don't have any papers. So guys, I just encourage all of you, don't fall into the false religion of wokeism. Don't buy into the whole, oh, it's systemic white this, systemic white that. That's bullshit. These are human beings. We're all humans. God made us all humans. A lot of my friends, including myself, have interracial marriages and we have mixed kids. We don't want to send our kids to some woke school to have some scumbag teacher tell them, oh, your dad's an oppressor. And since you're part white, you're a partial oppressor. That's all got to go. That's what the Nazis did. And that leads directly to the concentration camp. Yeah. So what we want to do is start focusing on the fact that we're all human beings and take all this racial crap that's been forced on you by academia and all these politicians and tell them to shove it up their butt. In the Marine Corps, we have black people, we have yellow, brown, whatever. And we all know that as Marines, we're going to drag my dead body back to my mother and vice versa, regardless of your color. So don't buy into all that stuff. That was just an Obama thing to try to recreate a race war and create more power and divide us. And we've seen that happening at full speed ahead, guys. Now, yeah, somebody go ahead and get rid of the anti-white racists that are showing up in my stream. I don't really appreciate that. I don't appreciate racism coming from either side of the spectrum, but clearly when I see people talking about, so somebody go ahead and just immediately nuke Ibn A for me. I never want to see that person back here. We don't support the proposition that people are any different because of the color of their skin. We support the Martin Luther King philosophy that we judge people by the content of their character, not their skin color. So if you don't like that, find another channel to play around on. Now, with that being said, I have Mama Lion. Thank you so much for showing up. Thanks so much again, Kinetic Customs, for showing up. And Trey Parker, thanks for joining in the stream. And please get rid of all the anti-white racists that have somehow shown up in the stream. I'm not really sure why they're here. Ruby, thanks for showing up. And you're right, Humid. MLK was definitely a bit of a socialist based on modern terms, but MLK was also a Republican. And MLK supported Christian and not Marxist ideas when it came to judging people. He clearly said, judge people by the content of their character, not their skin color. And so the woke Marxist racists in the sidebar here support the black nationalist ideology, not the Martin Luther King ideology. So the black nationalists wanted to have resegregation. And we're seeing that they're trying to do that right now in our public schools. They want to have one side of your classroom segregated, they're oppressors, and then the other side is the oppressed, right? And that's why so many people are pulling their kids out of public school, right? Because you don't want your kids growing up being taught that their fellow classmates are oppressed or oppressors. Kids don't need to be exposed to that nonsense. That's just disgusting to me. So Let me see here. So Enrique Varela calls people Jewish Zionists. I don't know what all that stuff is, guys. I just see like the modern woke movement basically has become a lot like how the KKK was. They want to categorize and classify everyone based on race or gender or their scientific definition of what gender is. Give me a bunch of ones if you guys see that as well, that the modern woke movement is really kind of like how the Nazis were. It's just that they've replaced, well, dark with light, right? It's no longer about being an Aryan. You have to be, a native. You have to have dark skin, and then only then are you a good person. But if you have light skin, that makes you evil. It's just really ridiculous. Give me a bunch of ones if you think it's ridiculous too. Give me a bunch of twos if you support the racism and ideology of the woke radical Marxist left. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say about that. Yeah, well, so Fazek says people are pulling their kids out of public school because they're shitty institutions with no funding and horrible environments. Well, I would have to disagree about the funding. Our schools get a shitload of money. The problem is they're teaching woke ideology instead of reading, writing, and arithmetic. Our public school system, according to many parents, have basically become Marxist indoctrination camps. And they're lowering standards in California and Washington. They're saying that math is racist. Basically, they just want an uneducated populace of people who are incapable of critical thinking. They just want people to regurgitate white people are evil, everyone else is good. If you disagree, you're a racist, bigot, homophobe. And that's basically it in a nutshell. And that's what BlackRock wants. That's what these large corporations want. They want to keep us divided. They don't want a united populace. I mean, if we were all to unite, these people would lose all their power. Now, Martin Luther King created parallel systems. He taught us that we should not engage with people who discriminate against us. And he shut down all of those shops. And ultimately, by creating a parallel system, those evil systems were forced to start catering to his people. And we can do the same thing, guys. We can form our own parallel systems, homeschool, homestead, get out of the public school brainwashed Marxist Nazi system and start teaching your kids right from wrong. Raise colorblind children where they're taught to judge people based on their character and not their skin color. Now, that's right, Trey Parker. And I've heard that too, that it's mostly self-hating white liberals pushing the narrative. Malcolm X told us to be careful about them. So Malcolm X, actually, I saw a really great video about him. He talked about the Black nationalists, and he talked about the Martin Luther Kings and about the segregation of Black nationalism. And the problem is the modern youth, they just put them all together. They think that X and King and all these guys were all the same. No, they all had totally divergent ideologies. And MLK did not support X, and X absolutely did not support MLK. MLK taught nonviolence. So people just need to get educated, and it's really sad what's happened with our education system. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. And yeah, so no dislike buttons. So Stomper, there does seem to be many definitions of woke, but what we can do is we can definitely say this. It supports the concept that all white people are evil. It supports the concept that everything is based on white racism, and therefore, we need to replace white people. And that's the concept of opening the southern border and flooding the globalists, replacing everyone. And that, in a nutshell, that's pretty much what it is. It's just, if you're a white person, you're evil, everyone else is good. And if you disagree, you're a racist, bigot, and a homophobe. I mean, that's really what woke is in a nutshell. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree, or put it in the comments if you have another definition you want to share with us. And Trey, I don't really know what you would consider the original definition, but it's based on critical race theory. And critical race theory is basically no different than what the Nazis taught about the Jews, that all white people are evil, that they're irredeemably racist and can never, ever be forgiven for the sins of their past. And that's something that the Black nationalist movement pushed very heavily. And so it's heavily tied with critical race theory. And all this stuff basically started around the Obama administration. So most people blame it on that. But you are right that people are absolutely yanking their kids out of public schools. And it's not because they're underfunded. It's because most of the public school teachers are woke academics and they're trying to sexualize their kids. And parents, especially Latino parents, they don't like it. We don't like it. So, you know, they're kind of creating their own problem for themselves. California is losing all of the taxpayers. The only people left are illegals and people on welfare, a lot of people are saying. And it's going to get even worse until we start teaching people to be good people and work for a living. Start teaching merit, earn things, be meritorious. People hire me as a lawyer because they know I get good results. Would you hire a lawyer just because they had a different skin color and that was your basis for hiring them? Of course not. You'd hire a lawyer based on how good they are and how their results are and how responsive they are to you. If your lawyer is a jerk and doesn't return phone calls and is disrespectful to you, that's not a good experience. So merit is everything in this world. And I just am hoping that the American people will wake up and become awake instead of woke. So now, with that being said, so now, Humid, clearly you're an activist for the left, but the National Education Association has come out and said that they want critical race theory to be taught at every public school. And of course, initially they lied and said they didn't want that, but once they got it moving, they said they did want it. But no, they don't call it critical race theory, Humid. They call it intersectionalism, or they call it one of many different names. But when my kids came home from school and said, Dad, one of the school teachers said that my dad's an oppressor because he's white, guess what? My kids don't go to public school anymore, at least not in California. So all I'm telling you guys is it's absolutely being taught. Humid, you can make up nonsense and try to be like the far left radicals and pretend like it's not being taught in the California schools. But us parents and people with a brain, and especially lawyers who do research, we know exactly what's going on. And they're also trying to sexualize kindergartners. And now they have the Safety Act in California that Newsom just signed into law that allows public school teachers fresh out of UCLA or some woke academic institution to come along and sexualize their children and convince them that their son might really be a girl. They can even give them a dress to wear and call them by their woke pronouns at school. And then when they go home, the school teachers aren't allowed to tell the parents because that would be dangerous. That would be hateful. It would be hateful to tell the parents that these woke school teachers are trying to convince the kids that they're a different gender. It would be hate speech. And so that's what I keep telling you about the First Amendment and how the far radical Marxist left is trying to turn any kind of speech they disagree with into hate speech. And that's what they do in Germany, the crime of insult. If you flip someone off in Germany while you're driving your car, you can have your license suspended. So is that where we want to go with this country? Do we really want to adopt all of the leftist European nonsense? We see what's happening in Europe. I mean, they're burning down Paris. They're attacking Christianity. The Olympics are making fun of traditional family values. Dudes with beards walking around in dresses. I mean, is that what you want for your kids? Give me a bunch of ones if that's what you want for your kids. Give me a bunch of twos if you want liberty and freedom for your kids. Now, Go Shirt Society. Why would you want a fact checker when you know that the fact checkers are hired by people like Mark Zuckerberg? And all fact checkers do is take a true story and make up stuff about that story that isn't true and then say that it's false. And so why would you ever believe a fact checker when you know that they're just being paid off for a political opinion and they want to destroy anyone who has a differing opinion by saying that they're engaged in disinformation? We know that that's a big scam that's been used by the censorship society, the Orwellians who run California. And we're not going to let them get away with it anymore, guys. So, yeah, and Paris is burning due to riots. And why is that? Well, because they flooded their country with jihadis. That's why. Anyways, guys, that's going to be enough for today. Got to get back to work. I really, really do appreciate y'all showing up. Wasn't expecting the amazing audience. Hopefully you learned a little something today about throwdown firearms and how law enforcement continually evaporates the rights of the common citizen. And hopefully you've learned always, always, always film the police. Now, for all you people who are upset about me being in vertical mode, horizontal mode is awesome, guys, but vertical mode allows us to get out to like the TikTok crowd, the younger generation. I already know that you older guys like me support me, but we need to get the younger generation, the one that's being brainwashed by the academic institutions. We need to get them, and they watch stuff in vertical mode. So all I'm trying to do, guys, is my free time that I'm donating here is to get the maximum exposure. So that's what I do. And so we will go ahead and close it out. So everybody make sure to like and subscribe, make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. And all my mods, make sure to delete all these commies. I don't want them back here in the conversation. You can tell they probably work for CNN or MSNBC. They can go and do that stuff at their colleges where they probably have part-time jobs as professors brainwashing kids. But here, this is a place where people believe in truth and honesty and decency. So we don't need a bunch of Marxist academics on my channel. So with that being said, if you guys are out there and you run across something like this, remember my show.
Where are your papers, Mav? Where are they? Oh, you don't have any papers?
So there you go, guys. That was it. So make sure to go tune in to Chili DeCastro's channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down the channel. I will talk to you guys really quick. Thanks, Kinetic Customs, for showing up. If you guys have any other ideas or suggestions for future shows, please reach out to me. I'm always interested in new cool stuff that people will like. Take care, everyone. Semper Fidelis.